Okay, we've got a clock, and it's telling me that the recording has started. I'm waiting for it to catch up over here, and there it is. Okay. Well, let's see how this works out. Okay. I do that, and then this, and then that. Good morning. At least here, it's morning. Where you are, it might be afternoon or evening. It is a snowy hellscape outside right now, even though it is mid-April. I'm pretty sure it's mid-April everywhere across the globe, which at least in this particular hemisphere usually means the beginnings of spring. But instead, it was freezing rain all day Friday, so there's a good half inch or more basically ice on top of everything. And then it's been snowing for 2 days. So, I don't know, it's like 7 or 8 inches out here. If you go north a bit more, it's anywhere from up to 20 inches of snow, which, if you're from Wisconsin, I mean, that's not the end of the world, but by mid April, you're pretty tired of snow. And being from Wisconsin and it being mid April, I am pretty tired of snow. This is no fun. So, anyway, that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. If everything cuts out at some point, then maybe it's the ice storm has finally taken the power lines down. Or if you see, what are those dudes, the big white guy that attacked Luke in Empire Strikes Back. It's not is that a Wampa? I don't know if you just see a big white furry arm come across, and that's same thing. It's just, just know that I died how I lived, being killed by a Wampa. Anyway, let's see here. We've got Belgium, Singapore, Chicago. Good morning from the pit, which I assume to be Pittsburgh, but might not be. It's hard to say. Japan, building some terrain for Wreck Age. Well, good to hear it. Finland, Sydney. We've got VJ Morph checking in as always. It's middle of the night there or whatever. Sit and paint and play. Says hello. We've got UK, West Midlands. Good morning from snowy Delavan. Okay, yeah, it's Delavan. Is it the Delavan that I think it is? It's probably pretty snowy down there, although it's probably a bit snowier up here. Swindon. What else have we got? Brooklyn, Scotland. Houston says move further south. But all my stuff is here, and I hate moving. So I mean, it is what it is. I don't try to complain about it too much. But it was surprising how, everybody knew it was coming, but we were all like, nah, it's the weather dudes and dudettes are over exaggerating. And seems as for once they were not. Milwaukee, Hudson, Wisconsin, Door County. We got a lot of Wisconsins right now. Let's see here. Denmark, Topeka, Oklahoma. Finished my first 40K army, playing my first game today. Well, excellent. Sounds great. I was planning on getting together and playing some Shadespire at the local shop today, but I don't think that's going to happen because of they just plowed the major street that runs kind of by my house, but they haven't plowed the street that my driveway is on. So yeah, that's everything's very icy and sucky out. So a lot of stuff is closed. Strangely, we don't do that here too frequently. Every once in a while, every couple of years, stores will be like, nope, we're closing because it's too dangerous out. And but yeah, there's been a lot of stores that have been closed. Hello from Jakarta. I'm assuming it's not snowy in Jakarta, but I could be wrong. Omaha, Lincolnshire, UK. Paul Noxie says listing old stuff on eBay, then going to start painting. Sounds good. Matthew Sears says hola because he speaks Spanish. That's moderator Matt here in the chat. We had a conversation yesterday on the phone. Let's see here. Northeast UK, State College, Pennsylvania. Good afternoon from Poland. We've got the UK. We've got New Jersey, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Tampa, Florida. Probably also not snowing down there. Ashland, Wisconsin. Good morning from cold Edmonton, Alberta. Yeah, that's probably it. I've got a friend who He used to live in Edmonton and said that it didn't snow a ton there, but it was just crazy cold all winter long, and it sucked. The Noob Painter has a question. Minions, I need some help. I need to name the big race for my Gaslands game at TMX. Anyone got any good ideas for a Tabletop Minions themed race like the Pachow Rally or TMX 500? I like both of those. Those are fine. Yeah, that's if you've got some ideas, throw them in the chat for the Noob Painter. The Noob Painter, it sounds like he's coming to TMX, is what he's saying, which is good. He was there last year, flew up from Texas, and he's going to be running Gaslands this year, which is also cool. Gaslands is really, like, kind of blowing up, which is really cool for Osprey, and yeah, I'm looking. I have a copy of it. I haven't built any little cars yet. I don't think I have any Matchbox cars in the house. I have some micro machines that I bought on eBay quite a while back for reasons, but they're too small. So I do need to go maybe to the store, like the dollar store, and look for some crappy Matchbox style, Hot Wheels style cars, and start looking into that. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. At the very least, I want to play in the whatever the race ends up being called at Tabletop Minions Expo. Good morning from Tinley Park. Joe says, plowed snow yesterday for over 10 hours, got truck stuck about 5 times. Yeah, Joe knows my pain. What else have we got here? Working on magnetizing a defiler this morning. That's pretty cool. I owned a defiler kit. Like, I was given one for Christmas years ago, but I've never quite deployed it yet. So one of these days. Hello from Melbourne, Australia. Just after midnight here, but love to catch the show live. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Jeffrey says, getting back into painting after a long illness. Never miss watching your show, though. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better, Jeffrey. I'm hoping that that everything goes well and that you are able to get back into painting and everything works out well. Martin says, I just started painting the frame for the Perfect Grade Gundam Mark II. It is fun, but it will take a while. I'm assuming you're painting it on the sprue? Okay. I've never been a big paint on the sprue guy, because it drives me nuts that if I paint it and then I have to clip all the parts off and then repaint those little bits where they're clipped. But other people do seem to like it. Justin says, it's very rainy here in Morgantown, Kentucky. Okay. Subtle Strife. Adam, just got back into painting thanks to you after around 5 years away, but some of my paints have separated. Any idea how to save them, or do I just have to buy new ones? You can attempt to try to generally, like one thing you can do is just take like a stir, if it's like a pot, where the top comes off, like a Citadel paint or some of those types of paints, and you can just kind of stir them with like a toothpick or something like that and kind of get them together. If it is more of a dropper bottle type situation, then you can't really get in there with a toothpick very well. I have seen plenty of people who have taken like a handheld jigsaw, that you would use, and it's electric and it jigs, or whatever, saws. I've seen them take then one of those smaller like clamps for gluing things, where it's like I think it's called a bar clamp, and they'll put it in where the blade would go, and then they will use the pinchy bit to hold on to, say, like a pot of paint, and then when they fire it up, it shakes the paint back and forth super fast. Look around on YouTube and whatnot for people who are doing that to see what it looks like. That may be the way to go to try to reconstitute, if that's even the right word, your paints. Yeah, there's a possibility. I would at least definitely give it a try before you go out and buy new paints. But yeah, paints will separate over years and years and years sometimes. Not all of them, but I mean the pastier ones, stuff that's not in a dropper bottle, those will not necessarily always separate. But if it's in a dropper bottle and it's a bit thinner, they will sometimes separate. So that's something to take a look at. Hello from Turin, Italy. Nice. Greetings from South Africa. Thanks for all the cool videos. Well, you're welcome. Let's see here. Just stopped by to say hi. It's my birthday and I'm on vacation visiting my mom in Florida. Had to hold up my mom and wife going to the beach to watch Uncle Adam. Well, you didn't have to do that. It'll, the recording will come. after the show is done. So, there's that. Okay, let's see here. Robert says Belgium, Wisconsin last weekend they were predicting 60-degree weather for this weekend. Now we have an icy hell. Yeah, I know. And not in 2 days on Tuesday, but the following Tuesday they're saying it's going to be almost 60 again. So I mean, this isn't going to last. It's going to last for probably a week, but it's not. It's not like it's not like we're going to have to shovel for the 4th of July parade. You know what I mean? But it is a little bit annoying. Joshua says, good evening from the Philippines. Working on my 1/35th scale Gundam UC hard graph kit. Love the detail on these soldier minis. Oh, that's cool. I've never been a Gundam guy. I don't know really anything about it other than they're big robots. And they usually come in colored plastic so that you don't have to paint them. But a lot of people like to spend a lot of time either painting them or weathering. I watched a video about it once, and it looks cool. Anthony B says, slowly finishing my Blightlord squad and then starting my Necron army. Picked up 2 Necron half of Forgebane. Oh, the Necron half of the new Forgebane box. Well, that's cool. That's probably a good way to get going. I mean, you got that special character twice, which you probably don't need him twice, but you'd always shift one of them on eBay or sell one to a friend or trade or something like that. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good deal. So yeah. Hi, says Trek Walter. Hunkered down until this 3-day frozen rain goes away. Traverse City, Michigan. Yeah, no, ours turned into snow after the first day. So yeah, I feel your pain. I mean, luckily we have food in the house. You know what I mean? Not good food. I'm kind of tired of soup a little bit, but whatever. Yeah. Duke says, a relatively new painter found a nice phosphorescent pink paint that I want to use for my Slanesh miniatures. Any advice for craft acrylics on miniatures? Craft acrylics, that you get at the craft store generally, are not great on miniatures. The reason why is because the pigments are not nearly as finely ground as the paints that you buy to use on miniatures. So very frequently, either those pigments can, depending on how you use them, can kind of clog up some detail. Sometimes they can cause the model to look kind of chalky because of just the bigger pigments as far as the surface is concerned. So there's that. But, I mean, I have seen people paint with them before, and they're great for terrain. I generally use craft acrylics for terrain because, it's just bigger and then that way the paint is cheaper. You don't want to use a $4 or $5 little tiny bottle of paint to paint rocks. You can use craft acrylics for that all day long. But yeah, that's kind of like I said, people have done it. I've seen people do it. It's a little harder, and you have to be a little bit more careful. So craft acrylics are not great on miniatures because of how big the pigment is generally. That's the long story. What do we got here? Just a quick thank you for your videos. Have been watching for the last few days, and you've inspired me to try wargaming. Just went and picked up Shadespire to start. Shadespire is a good start. It's kind of a gateway game, so it sort of straddles the fence between board game and wargame. But the upside is that you get small amounts of models to paint, so you don't have this huge army that you're working on. You can probably convince other people around you who are board gamers. You're like, hey, check this out, even though I know you're a board gamer, but this is kind of like a board game, but different. And maybe you'll convince them that they're interested in wargaming a little bit as well. Also, if you do get into, say, like Age of Sigmar, in that particular situation, the war bands that you get for Shadespire all have the ability to go into Age of Sigmar. They've got free war scrolls on the Games Workshop website where you can download the war scroll for each of the war bands, and then the war bands act as a unit in Age of Sigmar. So like the Sepulchral Guard, the skeleton guys, they're like a unit. So you take all 7 of them as one group, or the I forget what the Stormcast Eternals, the ones that come in the base game. There's a war scroll for every one of those, and that's kind of cool because then you can think to yourself, well, heck, I've already got these guys, and I might as well start thinking about Age of Sigmar. I mean, that's kind of the business idea behind it, but yeah. What else have we got? Useful G says 3 shirts coming my way: Blood for the Blood God, Bachow, and Uncle Adam says. Yeah, so let me talk about that real quick. The I've been getting people. I did shirts 2 years ago, 2016. Yeah, I did some shirts 2016, and it was just a 3 week pre-sale. I got them printed locally, and so people could prepay for up to 3 weeks, and then I was able to get exactly the right amount of shirts done, and then I packaged them all up and shipped them out all over the world and everything. And shipping overseas was a pain, not for me, but for the people who had to pay for it because the prices were kind of crazy high. So I didn't like that. Also, the shirts could pretty much only be 2 color because otherwise they got too expensive, and there was that kind of a problem as well. Plus, I could really only do one shirt design and really only one color of like shirt. These are all normal problems for that type of setup. It also took me a ton of time to ship them all out because I was doing it, printing labels and doing all that stuff in the basement, which is fine at the time because I was underemployed. I was between jobs and I was working part-time at a multimedia place here in town. So that was fine. But I had a lot of people asking me over the last year about, hey, t-shirts. And so I was like, well, I want to find a service online where I can get t-shirts made that are full color, good quality, also a lot of choice, also inexpensive because a lot of print-on-demand t-shirts can be not very expensive or not very cheap. And I also wanted to make sure that there was a facility, not just in the United States, but also overseas. There's a facility in the European Union so that shipping for people outside the United States would be more reasonable. So it took me some time, and I eventually found this company, and I'm working with them. And the only downside is that their website, specifically the back end part that I have to mess with, is not awesome. I can't I can't put the shirts in the order I want in the store, and there's a bunch of other little weird things. But basically, everything else works fine for the most part. So I posted to the patrons last weekend. I posted links so that they could go in and take a look and kind of pre-buy and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, that's where that's at. So if I can find the thingy here. So the shirts are available here at this address, which is bit.ly/merchbunker. And if I can find this thing, this is the website. So we've got currently 5 designs. So there's what else? So this one I actually wore to Gen Con last year, 2017. This is, if you're young, you may not get this joke. If you're older, this is based off of the old Frankie Say Relax, which was from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, this band from the 80s. They had like only a couple of songs. They were from the UK. I mean, only a couple of songs over here in the United States. They probably had more songs over in the UK. But you used to just have this shirt that they would wear that was white with black text, big block letters. It just says Frankie Say Relax. And it didn't say, the original one didn't say says relax. It just said Frankie Say Relax. I'm not quite sure why. Anyway, so this is kind of the first one. And if you went to the meetup that I did at Gen Con, I was wearing this shirt. Comes in, all of these shirts come in different styles. So you've got, let's see here, you've got 2 different styles. There's like a tagless tee. Next level tee is a little thinner and kind of like a nicer, smoother material. And then there's also 2 women's types too. There's women's premium tees and Gildan women's relaxed tees. Usually they come in lots of different colors, but this one, because it matches the original, the way that it looked, like the vintage, these were always black text on white shirt. They didn't usually have a logo, especially not the Tabletop Minions logo, but yeah, so I put that on there. I've also got another one that is Live, Laugh, Blood for the Blood God. And this one, you see those little things that, some people put in their kitchens, or you see them at Hobby Lobby in the gift area, and it will say Live, Laugh, Love, or Live, Laugh, eat, Pray, Love. I don't know, whatever. I've never quite understood them, But I found a font that reminded me of those, and then I thought, well, I can do better. So I did that, and this one also again comes in 4 different styles. So you've got 2 different men's styles, 2 different women's styles, and they come in different colors. I've got the gray one here, although I think I have it in the next level, so I've got it more like that one. But there's a couple different grays. There's tan. There's a lot of different things. In women's, you've got white, gray, and pink. If you want to go that direction. I have some options when I kind of design these for shirt color, but not a ton necessarily. But it depends on the shirt. Then I've got Get Slain, and that is basically you've just got I've got this model that I painted and I've laid down, and sometimes you roll a 1, and that's just sometimes you roll a 1 with a plasma weapon, sometimes you roll a 1 with your armor save, or your dodge or whatever, and like in video games, everyone's always like get wrecked. I wanted to kind of make one for us, so that's why I went Get Slain. So you can say that to your pals when they do get slain or whatever across the table. Comes in different colors again: red, gray, real dark. I've got it in the real dark color. I think it looks kind of cool actually because it's subtle. What else? Lastly, due to a lot of people asking, we've got a Pachow shirt. This is an actual screenshot from one of the videos. I don't remember which one, but it is it's your old pal Uncle Adam saying Pachow, and then there's the word balloon, which is a hex shape word balloon, so it matches the logo kind of. And this also comes in a bunch of different colors, and even black if you want to go totally like metal t-shirt or whatever, you could do that, and that's fun. So that's pretty much the stuff. And if you're interested, it can tell, evidently the website can tell where you are as far as like whether you're in the United States or whether you're outside the United States. So it should show you if you're inside the United States, buy the United States versions, and they will say that's why there's 2 in each of the store. If you are outside, even in Canada, you want to buy the EU version because the shipping will be cheaper. So, but it will somehow translate like the price to your local currency. But if not, I think there's a setting on the bottom. Anyway, that's where that's at. So yeah, those are the shirts, and I will be adding more shirts down the road. I will be retiring shirts if they don't sell very well. Like if people aren't buying it, I will announce, hey, I'm going to retire this shirt in 3 weeks, and anyone who's been thinking about it should probably buy one. And then I'll get rid of it. I'll put in different shirts. It's one of the benefits of being able to do it this way is that I can put up shirts that even I don't think that many people will get or that many people will like, but maybe there's a dozen people that will like it. And so I'll take the time to build the design and put it up, and people can, check it out. It's not like a regular like shirt that you have to get made, and that will take, you have to print at least 24 or 48 before the printer will even like do it. These I can do one-offs. Plus, I've got a bunch of other, in this particular company, they've got other things. They've got throw pillows, they've got flags, they've got, I think, sweatshirts, hoodies, leggings. You get my face, like just step and repeat over and over again on a pair of leggings, if you're into that. So yeah. Dave says, how about a t-shirt with the googly eye cello case? That's not a half bad idea. That you may see that. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now, and the address you can see down here, which I'm moving my mouse, but you can't see it. I forget that from time to time. But yeah, it's bit.ly/merch bunker. It's the Tabletop Minions merch bunker. So yeah, that's pretty much where that's at right now. JP Got Rocket says, I'm in a pocket dimension. How do they know? Well, IP, Internet Protocol. It's fancy stuff now. It's pretty cool. Let's see here. What else have we got? No Emperor Protects t-shirts. Well, that's probably... I don't want to copy stuff, and maybe Uncle Adam Protects. I could see that. That could be a thing, like a picture of me on the Golden Throne. I'd have to make my own Golden Throne, though. Anyway, we may be getting into a weird area there. What else do we got here? Legionnaire says just need red for the Pachow tea. Well, you've got it's in red. You can get that in most of the situations. The noob painter asks, "What's the secret symbol meaning?" I don't get the reference. Well, you have to kind of turn your head a little bit, and then that can help. But that's why it's a secret symbol. What else have we got here? I don't think I'd wear leggings, says Rick Gearhart. Rick, I think you might. But, well, okay, all right, but I might wear some Pachow leggings. Well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, we'll see what happens. Link is bit.ly/merchbunker. It's right here on the screen. It's also, it looks like Matt has already put it in the thing, so we're good there. Xenomorph says, "Hi, Uncle Adam. I need some advice. I just started my AdMech army, so I got to start collecting and the Codex, but not sure what to get next. Should I buy more Rangers Vanguard or get Cataphrons?" What the heck are Cataphrons? I know what the other ones are. I don't know what the Cataphrons are. I may not be the best person to help you in that situation. I do own the AdMech Codex. I will be adding AdMech as a second detachment, or as the first detachment, I guess. Well, if there's the main army, then anyway, they're going to be added on eventually to my Space Marines army. I don't know. I'm not sure about... I don't know what the heck a Cataphron is. I like the Castellan robots. They're pretty cool. I like the Dune crawlers. They're pretty cool. And I've got a bunch of Vanguard, I think, or Rangers. Which are the ones with the hoods? I've got those guys. So, yeah, I may not be the right guy to ask. If you're looking at it, especially for a strategic list building kind of a thing, I am certainly not your guy, because I stink at strategery or list building. I pretty much just buy and paint the stuff that I think looks cool and then lose a lot of games, but it's fun. So yeah, I'm not good at that. That being said, I would where would I ask? I would not look on... There's a lot of websites I wouldn't look on. Gosh, I don't really know. You know, like, because the thing is, you go to like some of these different forums and you're like, hey, I have this question, and you will just get just contradictory over and over and over and over again. People, you know, just giving you different answers. And so I don't know that I'm necessarily, I don't know if I'm necessarily the right guy to give you that answer. I apologize. Adrian says, "I think I'd get arrested for indecency if I wore leggings." Well, now, see, but your stuff is covered. So I don't know. Well, I suppose it depends in your neck of the woods. You know, maybe the laws there are different. I either dreamt you talked about squats. Oh, someone's asking. Daniel says, "I either dreamt you talked about squats on the show 2 weeks ago, or you actually did talk about squats 2 weeks ago. Am I a crazy squat head? Just wondering." No, I was talking about when I was at Adepticon. They had the press thing, for the Games Workshop press thing, and there was a video which eventually ended up being a promo video for Imperial Knights. But I thought for just a split second that it was about the squats, because the guy, like, you couldn't see the scale, like, of his surroundings, if he was short or if he was like average height or if he was very tall. But he was like, he had like a big beard and he was pretty, you know, like wide. And at first I thought maybe he was an Inquisitor, but then I was like, oh, but maybe he's a squat. They're bringing back the squats. And then it turned out he was just a guy who drives a Imperial Knight. But I really hoped that they were going to be bringing back the squats, just because I thought that'd be a fun thing to do. Is it a good idea to spray paint over already painted models? Generally, no. Unless the paint that is already on them is very, very thin, or if they are like Plague Marines. Like, I have picked up like used Plague Marines before and just primed right over them and then started painting because they're Plague Marines. If they're bumpy, it's fine because they're Plague Marines. So, but like Eldar, you know, somebody who's supposed to be all smooth and pretty all the time, probably not a good idea. Yeah, and it also, like I said, it depends on how thick the paint that's already on them is. So, what else have we got here? VJ Morph says, "Adam, I picked up the 2 new Shadespire warbands yesterday morning. The new Khorne warband actually look and play really cool." Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting those. If it ever stops snowing, I'm going to try to go to my local shop and pick those two new ones up, I think. Yeah, it's I think it could be good. I really like the look of the new Corn armored guys whose name I can't. Blood Warriors, I believe. Definitely, yeah. Um, JP Got Rocket says, "Buy the figures you don't, or buy the figures you like. Don't worry about the rules." I thought at first it said, "Buy the figures you don't like," and then I don't think that makes any sense. Yeah, but I agree though. Rick Gerhardt says, "I think I thought the same exact thing. It seemed like squats to me. The guy looked like a dwarf. You know, like I mean, like there was no way to tell how tall he was. He was just walking by himself down this hallway. But what I was hoping was when he got to the end of the hallway, he was going to walk up to like a human and be like way shorter than the human, and then they were going to be like, 'Surprise, we're bringing back squats,' and I would have been like, 'That's some big news.' But instead, they were like, 'Surprise, we're going to make a new Imperial Knights Codex,' which everyone went, 'Well, yeah.' We kind of figured you would because there's not one for 8th edition. So that wasn't really a big surprise. But it got my hopes up. The bearded guy could have been a squat, says JP Got Rockets. I agree. The Noob Painter says, the first Tabletop Minions video was done in 2013. He's very right. This is referring to the secret symbol. Also, the 20th letter of the alphabet and the 13th letter of the alphabet are also very interesting. I'm just going to say that. Let's see here. There's probably some of you now that are like A, B, C, D. And I'll let you go with that. That's fine. Irrational Gaz says, "I was sorely disappointed when the Knights reveal turned out not to be squats as well." Yeah, maybe they were doing that on purpose. When I mentioned it to other people who saw the reveal, at least at Adepticon, they were all like, "Oh, I didn't think that at all." But you folks who get me, obviously, we get each other. We're on the same page, at least to some degree. So, Jeffrey David says, "What do you think of Guild Ball versus Blood Bowl?" Guild Ball's cool because it's like soccer, sort of. Blood Bowl is interesting because it is American football from the UK perspective, sort of, which is interesting. I think I'm probably going with Blood Bowl myself personally because I know a little bit more about American football than I do about soccer. Also, I don't know. I used to play it a long time ago, so there's some of that kind of not memory, but just I don't know, something that it's I look at it and go, yeah, that's the thing I still want to do. The new models specifically for Guild Ball, now that they've got the plastics and stuff, are crazy good. I have the Guild Ball starter laying around here somewhere, and because it was in the swag bag at Adepticon this year, so that will be a door prize this year at Tabletop Minions Expo TMX, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. So yeah, definitely. New Painter asks, maybe the Knights were piloted by squats. Well, I mean, they could be like the small ones. That could be cool. Like the new, like the little those what they're with the I forget what they're called. Armigers. The new ones from the Forge Bane box. Carol says, trying to make some people start Shadespire and failing. Any tips? I mean, if they don't want to play, they don't want to play. You can't force them. I guess the question is why are they like? Do they not like it? Are they just not even playing? They're like, no, I'm not interested. Or are they like, well, I played it now and I still don't like it? That's the question. I would keep trying. I mean, that's just general, life. If you don't succeed, there you go. So yeah. Yeah, that's I think a good way to go. But if someone doesn't want to play, I mean, they don't want to play. We've been here locally. Our Shadespire group has been growing quite a bit at the local shop, so that's really cool. Torch says that Blood Bowl is easier than Guild Ball. I've played both. I mean, I've played a couple of demos, maybe one or two demos of Guild Ball. You're probably right. I think you are. Yeah, Guild Ball is definitely a little bit more detailed. It feels like so. Yeah. Cheddar Monkey says Blood Bowl because Skaven. Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. That's true. They don't have any Skaven in Guild Ball, so there's that. What else have we got? Sam Hinchy says, in my mind, the Tau battlesuits are piloted by the Earth caste, which are the squats of the Tau. All right, yeah, that's kind of cool. I could see that. Like, I don't know how tall, like, the variation. Like, see, the Tau are interesting because there's the Tau, the normal kind of bluish, fishy, cowy dudes, because they got hooves. That's why they call them bovine fish commies or something, is what I used to refer to them to back when I used to play. Anyway, but then they have all these other races they work with, like the Kroot and the Vespids and I don't know, whoever else. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they do have like different, like I've never seen a different color. Like they're all very the same shade roughly. They don't seem to have any kind of differentiation in their particular race that I've seen before. But so yeah, maybe there are some real small ones that ride around inside the suits, because otherwise a regular Tau, just like FYI, would have to be all bunched up inside that suit, just to look at it. But really, if we're going to start getting into semantics like that, how do you fit 10 Space Marines in a Rhino? That's just there's no room in there. Let's see here. Jesse Daniel says, thinking of Adepticon, the UK folks confuse me with being so happy about Salute, yet it being only one day. Well, that's what they. I don't. Yeah, it's a huge convention from what I understand, but it is only the one day, which it's just, I think, a cultural difference. Which I mean, that's cool. Well, Adepticon's like 4.5 days at this point. So yeah, I think that for some people they just don't. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is, because when I first heard about Salute, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. I would be interested in going, and then finding out it's just on a Saturday, and I'm like, oh. But it's also a different thing than, from what I understand. It's much more about kind of like it's like a shopping trip. It's like showing off like a bunch of stuff, but there's not like tournaments and lots of classes and things like that, from what I understand. And again, that things may have changed since the last time I kind of took a deep dive look at the website. But it's a little bit more get together, hang out, buy some things, and then kind of go home, which is fine. Also, being in London, from what I understand, I'm sure that the cost to rent the space is astronomical. So just doing it for one day versus doing it for more days, just I guess probably makes sense as well. Kessbomb says, having a tough time putting a bolt action board together, finding terrain, etc., without bursting the bank. When you mentioned bursting, I thought you were having an actual problem getting the board because it was bursting. But then when you said bursting the bank, then I gotcha. Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, if you want something that's very three-dimensional, I would say look and see if you can find that weird pink foam that people put on the outside of their houses underneath the siding and all that jazz. You can usually find it at hardware stores. If you live in a very warm part of the world, you might not be able to find it in hardware stores because there's no reason to sell it there. I've found that out relatively recently. Don't use the white foam that's got the little balls in it, because that does not carve well and it's problematic. I mean, you can use it, but then you got to coat it with a lot of stuff, usually like spackle or whatever it's called in other parts of the world. Filler, I think sometimes, wall filler. So yeah, I don't know. I would probably just generally I like to generally just get like a mat, like buy a pre-printed mat and then spend more time on the actual pieces, like the buildings and the ruins and things like that, as opposed to spending tons of time. It looks way nicer when you have a fancy 3D, really cool board, but the problem is that it's kind of a pain to build. It's a pain to try to carry around. Like if you're just gonna be playing at your house, fine, but if you want to go someplace else to play, it's hard to carry around. So those mats can sometimes be really useful, just because you can very quickly, just roll it up and take it with you. So. Carol Jeske says the Earth casts look like potatoes, while the air are taller than Eldar. Huh, I had no idea. Is that true? I have no idea if that's true or not. Let me see here. What else have we got? Xenomorph, question time again. Uncle Adam, though, or threw some advice my way. How should I find out if Shadespire is a good game for me? I play 40k and starting to get into Sigmar. Anything helps. Thanks. I would try to find somebody who's got it and get a demo. Have them teach you how to play it. I mean, you can go online and look at battle reports and things like that, but go, try to find somebody at the local shop. Honestly, almost any shop that sells that stuff should have a demo copy probably, and they can be able to run you through it, or they'll know that there's going to be somebody who's playing and they can do something and get together. Another good way would be to use the Game4 app, which I've talked about before, and just put a looking for players listing in your local area and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to teach me Shadespire, and then maybe you'll find somebody who will be able to show you the game, and you can kind of check it out and go from there. Gaddis Gaming is here. Hello from Detroit. Hey, Gaddis. Sam Hinchy says Shadespire needs Sylvan and Caradon Overlords. Also needs Lizardmen, or, well, whatever they're called now, Seraphon. I definitely think that they need to make some Seraphon for Shadespire, because I really want to paint some lizard people, but not too many lizard people. You know what I mean? Like if they made it so it was like 5 or 4 or 6 or whatever, and I could buy a warband of lizard people and then paint my lizard people, that'd be great. Just like with the orcs. Like painting 4 orcs, in my opinion, is awesome because it's a nice little taste of painting orcs, but I don't have to paint 100 of them, and that's awesome. So yeah, that's the way it goes. Michael Rose says, was it Salute yesterday? It was okay. Mostly it's vendors and selling things, no tournament. Vendors were a little disappointing, as last year there were tons of deals, but this year not so many. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't watch any of the coverage of Salute yet. I'm just going to take a look at some of the stuff, some of the people, filming from Salute and putting things up, but I haven't really done it yet. Yeah, I don't know why it's strange why there would not be as many deals as there were last year. I don't know. Maybe that's just because sometimes I think that when the economy's doing really well, you see fewer and fewer deals, and then when the economy starts to go in the toilet again, you see a lot of deals. So, I mean, I guess I'm no economist, I'm no money scientist, but I bet that's probably what it is. People figure, companies figure, well, everyone's doing well, so let's not give them any coupons or something like that. Gaddis Gaming says 3D terrain is so much better. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It is really cool looking. It does have its downsides, and the time you got takes to build it and the cost, which is not terrible, but the building time is a big deal. And then of course the transport, as you know, there's that. But you can do some kind of stuff that's kind of cool. Jonathan Justin says, when will we see some battle reports? I'm going to be, unless it still keeps snowing like this all the way into mid-May, I'm going to be doing some battle reports with moderator Matt for Wreckage, probably to start, and then we'll kind of go from there in the new studio, actually. So that'll be coming in mid-May. That's when we're going to be shooting, is mid-May, so maybe end of May when I'll actually have the battle report done. But that's coming with the move into the new studio. I was really hoping to go and do stuff in the new studio this weekend, not film, but like get things set up and whatever. But it's the police say that we shouldn't really drive on the roads right now if you don't have to. So I guess me going to putz around in the studio is they don't have to kind of situation. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. But I'm ordering curtains, so I got that going for me. They'll show up eventually, and then I can hang those up. And then because there's 3 big windows in the main room that most of the shooting's going to be done in, and that could be problematic for lighting. So not for battle reports, but for regular like me talking to the camera type stuff, and also for like other like tutorial type things, those types of videos. You need the light to be very kind of static and not like if the sun goes behind a cloud, it throws everything off. You've seen it here on this channel during these live shows. Sometimes it gets super bright outside because the windows are right over there, and then all of a sudden it goes behind a cloud and everything looks weird. So that's kind of an issue. DJ Todd P. Harris, morning all, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Worked a long shift and overslept. What did I miss? So far, just t-shirts. T-shirts are now available at the Tabletop Minions merch bunker, which is at bit.ly/merch bunker. So you can go there and look at those. And I haven't talked really too much about TMX yet. What else have we got here? Josh McCarthy says, I'd love to go to England and wrap in salute with general tourism. I'm assuming, I get what you're saying. Yeah, we're, my wife and I are obviously not going to salute this year. We're kicking around the idea of going and visiting the UK at some point. I don't exactly know when. Like, we've literally just been like, well, yeah, we should do that. I don't even have a passport yet, so I got to get that happening. But yeah, so it's something that we're thinking about, and so I don't know that we would schedule for Salute. We obviously it'd have to be next year. I don't know yet, but we are kicking around the idea. I'm starting to think more and more about going overseas, becoming a world traveler, or whatever. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Let's see here. Xenomorph says, hey, this is the best live stream I have seen. Is this the first live stream you've seen? Is this the only live stream you've seen? Because there's got to be better ones. I know there are. Yes. Useful G says blackout curtains would be best for the studio. Yes, that is the plan. I found some inexpensive ones. The windows are super crazy tall. They're like 9-foot windows in that place. So it's hard to find curtains that are longer than 9 feet. So I think I'm going to have to get creative, which is fine. But I mean, I'll just buy 9-foot curtains and then just put them lower down the window a little bit. I don't know. You won't see that part on camera. That's the magic of behind the scenes. So yeah. Hi from Slovenia. Awesome channel. Well, thank you. DJ Todd P. Harris says, wow, do you have snow like that? And here I am complaining about the rain here. Yeah, it rained, freezing rain on Friday, and then yesterday and all day today it's just snow. We've got like, I don't know, a foot or something like that probably by the time it's done. So yeah, this is the biggest snow that we've had this entire season, and it's in mid-April. So that's weird, but it is what it is. Harrison Horkin, thoughts on fish people? I like fish people. I don't like wet elves. It's not that I don't like them. They're just not for me. If other people like them, and I know a lot of people are very excited about the wet elves, that's cool, and I'm glad for them. I was just hoping for scaly, big-eyed fish people. And people are like, what, you mean like Murlocs? And I'm like, sure, Murlocs, fish people. Yeah, whatever, man. That's what I wanted. But, that's fine. Lord knows I probably don't need a fourth Age of Sigmar army. You know what I mean? Like, between my Chaos Soup, my Death Soup, and my Stormcasts, I probably don't need a fourth army. I don't need also, technically don't need fish people, but I probably would have bought some anyway just because I wanted to paint them. I did, if you watched last week's, I don't know where it is anymore. If you watched last week's episode, I did buy some fish people made by a different company. They're metal. I think there might be a resin piece in there too, but they're mostly metal. But yeah, so it's I'm looking forward to painting those guys just basically for fun. I'll use them for who knows what. Go to Warhammer World in Nottingham, says Nosferatu Jones. I like that name, Nosferatu Jones. That's fun. Yeah, I mean, probably if we were to go overseas and to go to England, I would definitely try to schedule some sort of get-together at Warhammer World. I would like to see it, first of all, and then I would tell people that I was going to be there on that particular day or whatever, and then hopefully get to say hi to people overseas, which would be fun. So, yeah, like I said, this is all very, 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 very early planning stages, in that we're like, we should do that. That's about as early as the planning stages are. But hopefully it will be something that will come up eventually. I will be going to... I've been talking with them. I will be going to the Nova Open at the end of August. So I bought a plane ticket. I'll be doing my seminars there. talking to people, hanging around. It's going to be cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've been talking with the people at Nova, and that solidified over the course of this last week. So I forget exactly what the exact dates are for Nova Open. It's like I said, it's the very end of August into the beginning of September. It's like that last week, and because I think it starts like on Thursday, so it's like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, kind of like Adepticon. So I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Absolutely. Rick Gerhardt says, I didn't want Murlocs until right now. Right. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that would be awesome. Like, cool plastic GW sort of like Fishman Murloc looking dudes. That would be great. Now, what they should really do, is make them for 40K. Give them, like, laser guns and stuff. And, like, helmets. Maybe not. Definitely, like, fantasy ones. That would be pretty cool. VJ Morph says, Adam, 9-foot windows, that would be amazing natural light. Surely you would be better off shooting on the opposite wall and put in a nice cyclo wall. The problem is that there's no control. So, like, there's some days when it's going to be really, like, dim, and other days where I'm going to get, I don't remember which way, it's north-facing windows, question mark? No, not really. Northeast-facing windows. So, yeah, I think it would be better in some situations. For the battle reports and stuff like that, I don't know if I just might keep the windows open. I'm not 100% sure. But for the normal, like, talking head, and especially for, like, tutorial, like Sam and I are planning also on filming in early May. The 5th, I think, right now is the plan. So we're going to do a couple episodes at least. Maybe 3. Anyway, yeah, having control over the light, at least for my setup, is going to make a lot more sense. I'm not 100% sure yet, but at the very least, I want to have the ability to have control over the light. So there's times when maybe having the windows, like I said, for the battle reports could be cool. But otherwise, yeah, that's why I'm looking at getting those curtains. And they're not, like, super cheap, too. Anyway. I mean, pretty cheap, anyway. So Donald Duck says, hey, Adam, what your advice for a noob priming? Make sure it's not too humid. Make sure it's not too cold. Don't do it indoors. If you can help it, you know, I don't like to do it indoors because it smells really bad, and I don't want to stink up my house with the propellant. It's probably not particularly safe, so it's best to do it outdoors. If you've got a garage, it's almost perfect, because then you can do it out in the garage and still, like, you know, air out the garage, but you won't be in the wind. Stay whatever distance away from the model that it says on the can. Like, if it says spray at 12 inches, spray at 12 inches. Don't go back too far, because you'll get a real dusty looking primer. Don't go too close, because sometimes you'll clog the detail and stuff like that. So definitely take a look at those things. What else have we got? Adam, will you be coming to the Warhammer Cafe? That's the thing in Texas, right? I don't know. I don't really have a plan to. That being said, I've never been to Texas, so I don't know. It's hard to say. Mark says, greetings from South London. First time catching live stream as it happens. I've been watching the channel for almost a year. Learned a lot from your vids. Currently building 3 feculent gnarl maws. That's feculent gnarl maws. That's fun to say. Cool. That's I think that I'm glad to hear that you're building some stuff and that you've been watching the show. I can't picture the feculent gnarl maws in my head. I'm gonna have to look them up later. it's a great name for a unit. Emily says, I've never been to Nova Open, and I try to see what seminars you are running at the site isn't very intuitive. Any advice? I've not. I don't know if they've put my events up yet. Like I said, we just kind of got things nailed down last week. So, and I think if I remember correctly, they're, like, most of their events are done via, like, PDF. So it's a different kind of system that way. But like I said, I don't think the events are there yet. On the site. What events I'm doing my normal 2 events about how to YouTube. The first one, or one of them, is about more the technical aspects, which is the photography and the audio and the editing, and just kind of a wide, probably be about an hour and a half, but it's just a wide kind of overview of things to think about things to look at, things to consider. It's not a step-by-step, this is the way you do it, because there is no way to do it, but it talks about things you need to kind of understand if you're planning on starting a YouTube channel, technical stuff. You know, audio is much more actually important than video, things like that. There's just a bunch of different stuff. The second seminar is more about branding and content and strategy and things like that. Just it's more the softer stuff. It's more about understanding like how, you know, what you could, you know, think about when you name your channel. Don't just name something. You got to think about it a little bit. Think about your branding, your colors, your fonts. Think about the thumbnails that you make and how keeping them sort of standardized and all that kind of jazz. So that's pretty much what the 2 seminars are about. They will probably put them up on the website soon. I think, I know I sent them the information for that. I think I need to send them my bio information, but they don't need to have that, I don't think, to put up the events. But, you know, like I said, we just kind of said, yes, okay, cool, this last week, so. What else have we got? People talking about airbrushes. Airbrushes are good. Earthman Brick says, what's your favorite money-saving crafting technique? Money saving. I would say probably I like to hold on to weird bits and bobs that I find, you know, all kinds of different places and try to work them into terrain down the road. Like the deodorant that I use when you first buy a new one, like you take the top off and then there's this weird little thing that you kind of pull off the top. It's a hard plastic. It's like a clear hard plastic and it comes off the top of the what do you call it? The deodorant. And then normally you take that hard plastic thing and chuck it. But it kind of looks like because it's an oval, it almost looks like a weird little sci-fi kind of like a radar dish. You know what I mean? So you save a couple of those because you could use those as a weird oval radar dish thing. You have to embellish it a little bit, put some stuff on there, and then you can use that in a piece of terrain. You know, those like little pieces, little stuff. Sometimes you buy something and it comes with like a nice plastic, like clear plastic blister case, or whatever. Or it comes in one of those clamshells. Save those sometimes, not all of them. Save some. Have a nice little stash. Because then when you are working on like ruined buildings and you want to have like glass like that's broken, like everyone makes like the little like window sills. You have this ruined corner. It's the quintessential ruined corner, and then you have these little window sills. Well, sometimes you still want to have some busted glass in the corner. So if you take the clear plastic that you get in like a blister pack, I don't have anything nearby right now that I can show you, as it turns out. But you know what I'm talking about, that clear plastic stuff. You can then cut like a nice little piece of it and glue it in the corner, and it will look like there's broken glass in your windowsills and stuff like that. Just little, don't throw everything away. Try to recycle some of that stuff, and it can help you with embellishing your terrain. I'm going to be doing a video sometime soonish about embellishing your terrain to make your terrain, your building, look a lot nicer than just another foam core ruined building corner. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take a lot of work to do it. Feculent gnarl moths are the Nurgle trees. Oh, yeah. I've seen those. Yeah, they have those 3 big, weird, almost look like bug eyes on them. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a pretty good name for a tree. What else have we got? Dark Highwayman, is there a brand of paintbrushes do you like? Not particularly. I use a bunch of different weird stuff. I use some Army Painter. I use some Games Workshop. Sometimes I use cheap junk that I can get off of Amazon or whatever. I posted on Instagram back during Adepticon. People are always asking what Sam's brushes are, what brushes Sam uses. He uses this cheap pack of brushes that you get at Hobby Lobby that costs like $6 for like 5 brushes or something like that. If you look real close in the video, it's not a video, it's a picture. If you look on the Instagram, look real close, you can see actually which brushes he likes to use. And he says he uses it for 90% of his painting, and then it's usually the very last kind of fancy detail stuff where he uses expensive like Winsor & Newton Series 7 brushes. But the majority of the heavy lifting for his painting on anything, including the stuff that he did at the Crystal Brush, he uses these cheap brushes. So super crazy expensive brushes are not, they're not a necessity, really. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just use whatever kind of. I'm not super picky about brushes. Earthman Brick says hoarding is your technique. Genius. I love it. Do this. I do the same myself. I wouldn't say it's hoarding specifically. I mean, it's a little bit of hoarding. I try to not like, because my wife, because she loves me, she'll be like, we'll be throwing something away, and she's like, "Is this a thing that you want to keep?" And I'll be like, "I have enough of that, so we can recycle it or throw it away or whatever. That's fine." But I appreciate the effort. Yeah, but don't save every piece of clear plastic, you know what I mean, that you've ever picked up, because eventually you're going to have to make 700 windows. Don't do that. But, have some, like in a drawer or a box in the basement or something. And then once you've got some, don't keep getting more, because then eventually you do become a hoarder. But then if you use a bunch of it, well, then next time that you get something, like I did that with cereal boxes. Like that cereal box, that chipboard, that real thin cardboard that's not corrugated. That stuff is really useful also for terrain, but not for building a building out of, but like adding elements to the outside of a building to give it a little bit more texture, a little bit more three-dimensionality. You build yourself your foam core, whatever, but you want to have some like a little bit of ridging or something like that, and you can use that type of cardboard to do that. But don't save every cereal box. You know what I mean? Like get a couple, throw them in the basement, and then when you eventually use those pieces up, then save a couple more. Sometimes I use cereal boxes too for if I am priming or painting outside, like spray. I have this cardboard box in the garage that I use kind of as a table, and then I don't want to put the stuff that I'm painting directly onto the cardboard box, so I will instead put it onto a cereal box, and then I can then shift the cereal box. I can, like, now I need to spray the other side. I can turn the cereal box and spray it versus having to go the other direction, and maybe the wind is going the wrong way or whatever. And then those eventually get so choked with paint, you then throw those away. But those kinds of things. There's a lot of things that you can do for cheap. You don't need, like, I save my sprues because if the sprue is like the newer Games Workshop sprues are so tight that when you cut all the parts up, you have this nice lattice work, and then you can set models on top of it, and then that will kind of hold them up off of the cardboard when you're outside priming and spraying them, and then that way you can also just, it's just easier. Like when you see people who paint things a lot, they have these little triangles, these little plastic triangles that go underneath the thing to hold it up off of the surface, so you don't spray paint it onto the surface, and you have to peel it off the surface. Kind of little plastic things that hold things up. Sprues can basically do that same thing. I've got pictures. I'll show you a picture at some point. A lot of talk about paints, Vallejo, Citadel, etc. JP Got Rocket says, if it is on shelves, it is not hoarding. Yeah, that's still a fine line, I think, actually. Yeah. Ron Scott says, I just finished painting my first strike set. I'm so excited to begin the beginner missions. To begin the beginner missions. That's hard to say. Congrats. Yeah, that'll be very cool. Glad you got finished with the project, and it's not a huge project, so it's something that's easily attainable, and you can kind of go from there. Sam Hinchy says cereal sounds good. No, yeah, it does. Yeah. I think we have milk. Evidently, people are having a lot of trouble with ceramite white. White paint is a pain, man. I have not found a white paint that I really like yet. Painting white is difficult as well, but just white paint in general is difficult. And I think it has something to do, even white primer through my airbrush dries in the tip way more than any other color. And I'm assuming it's got something to do with the pigment. I'm no paint scientist, but I bet if I talked to, say, Mr. Justin from Secret Weapon Miniatures, who is almost a paint scientist, probably. I mean, not like I don't think he has a degree, but he knows his paint, like, a lot. I bet you he would tell me why that happens, but it's probably pigment size and stuff like that. What else have we got? Jesse Daniel says, I keep my sprues to use as debris when when the foot of a model doesn't sit even. Yeah, I do that too. I will use... saving sprue, I think, is a good idea. I built a bunch of like ramshackle catwalk walkways for Shadow War Armageddon, They could also be used, I guess, for Necromunda or whatever. But I did build a bunch of those out of sprue and plastic card stuff and old like gift cards. You know, like anytime you get a gift card from somebody and you use it, then at the end they're always like, "You want me to get rid of this?" And I'm always like, "No." And then I take the gift card with me, which is now empty, and then I usually use that because it's like plastic card, and then you just cut it up and use it for different things that you need it for, and then you paint over it. And in most situations that works pretty well. So yeah, sprue works well for that kind of thing. I also have a old timey hand crank meat grinder that came with the house, as it turns out, and I attach it to the workbench, and then I put pieces of sprue in it, and I crank real hard, and they come out like debris, and it's all beat up in little tiny pieces. And then so I have like a bucket of that, not a bucket. I have a bowl of that in the basement, which sometimes I use also as debris in like basing or terrain and that kind of stuff. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like you really my arm gets sore by the end of doing a whole bunch of pieces of sprue, but you only have to do it once in a while. So also do not use that meat grinder to grind meat anymore if you decide to go down this road, because you will get plastic in your meat, which nobody likes. Bunch of people saying that white has the largest pigments. That kind of is what I thought. Makes sense. I get that. Let's see here. Ice Axe Miniature says, I rarely use actual white paint. Instead, I paint stuff in off-white. After all, it's kind of hard to highlight with a lighter color than white. No, that's true. A lot of times if I was trying to make something white, I would generally prime it like a super light gray, then maybe do like a super light gray wash, and then go back and try to brush highlight the plates, or if it's like it's a Space Marine or something like that, or whatever, and try to brush highlight up, maybe do some dry brushing, things like that. But yeah, if you spray the thing white, then you can't really make it any whiter unless you then throw a bunch of wash on it and then go back that direction. But sometimes that can look real muddy, so definitely. We've got some paint scientists here in the chat. Frankie Lee Bailey says, white paint. White pigment is titanium. It has a cigar shape. Other pigment shapes are round. That's why they spray better, and sometimes white looks hairy if you paint it heavily. Hairy is I like that term. That's a good term. See, I knew we got smart people here in the chat. Evil Eyeball says, well, Adam, I'm heading off now. Just got off work, and I need to get a nap in before I head out with my wife later for Pokemon Go meetup community day, where I will forego 3 hours of sleep. My wife still plays Pokemon Go. I mean, like, because she walks to work, so, you know, that's good, because it's something about walking, and then there's, I don't know, you can hatch more Pokemons or whatever, and she, you know, so that's, but it's not like it was when it first came out, and like all the parks were filled with people walking around getting the Pokemons. So, but it's cool. I'm glad that the people are still doing it to some degree. It's just good to go outside. Houston says, a meat grinder that came with the house. Awesome. Well, I mean, we bought it from family. So when you buy a house from family, they're like, oh, you might want this, and then they don't have to get rid of it. And so there's a lot of stuff. So like the basement came, I don't want to say the basement came pre-filled, because it wasn't filled, but there was stuff down there. There was a decent amount of stuff in the basement. The room in which I do my airbrushing underneath the stairs, that was a typing room. It was a writing room, and there was a lot of stuff in there that I had to take out before I could do my airbrushery. So yeah, that's what happens when you buy a house from family. Earthman Brick says, plastic sprue is great. If you rotate while heating it, you can then gently pull it to create any length size you want. I have seen people do that before. It is probably not safe. I mean, for a couple of reasons. A, hot plastic. B, you know, fumes maybe. But if you did it maybe like outside and you wore gloves, I've seen people take like a heat gun and then heat up a piece of sprue, you know, until it starts to get soft and bendy. And then when you kind of start to stretch it, you can get like thinner, and you can almost make it like a plastic cord, like a super fine, and then you like wait for it to cool, and then it becomes a lot more stiff and then keeps its shape. I've seen people do that for, not so much for gaming models, more for like stuff that they're doing for display purposes. Like you're making some sort of cool display and you need like really thin like cords or wires or something like that. I've seen people use sprue for that, but it takes some work. You got to have just the right type of sprue and the right type of heat, and it's a lot of trial and error, but it can be done. Rick Gerhardt says, "Well, time to brave the icy roads. Wish me luck. Thanks for the company, all. Good luck, Rick. Yeah, we will probably not be braving the icy roads today. Normally, we would go to lunch at my wife's parents, and even though it's only across town, we're not doing that today. I don't think because everything is horrible outside. So yeah, I did see a plow go by at one point, so at least one of the roads nearby is sort of probably partially at least got less snow on it, but probably still, covered in ice from Friday. JP Got Rocket says, "You had a Harry Potter room." Well, I mean, I guess a little bit because it's under the stairs, but it's in the basement, so that's not. No, that's probably actually worse. Justin says, "I just picked up some 3/16 inch stainless steel agitator balls. Seems to work well with Vallejo paints. I think some people drop in plastic sprue parts. I don't know that the sprue parts would do really well for agitation because they don't have the mass. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be able to shake something and have the agitator like actually move back and forth and in a perfect world bounce from side to side within the bottle. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would work. If a piece of sprue would do as well as something with a bit more mass to it, like a stainless steel ball. I've heard a lot of people who would do that, and I think that's a good idea if that's what you want to do. I don't know. Yeah, I don't generally like. I just usually shake my paints real well, and then it also helps to use wet palette because then, if you're worried about the paint separating because you're coming straight out of the pot and onto the model, that's one of the issues that you can have. But if you're just like, well, I'm going to, squirt this stuff out, as long as you've mixed it enough to some degree, you should be okay. And then you can take it from there and then, put it on the wet palette and then basically kind of remix. If the colors have separated a little bit, you can kind of squish it all back together again on the palette and then go to town from there. That's what I do generally. Earthman Brick says, "Heating a sprue under a lighter or candle is fine. A heat gun would be overkill. You'd only get fumes if you burnt it." I've seen a guy do it with a heat gun, but it might have not been the same like normal kind of heat gun that you get like at the hardware store. I'm not 100% sure. We did it in high school in chemistry class, but we used glass rod over I think a Bunsen burner, which I would not. It's the same sort of kind of thing. It's just I would not use a Bunsen burner on your sprue. That seems like a terrible idea. People talk about using a candle, so you use that. That works, all right. Michael Albright says, "I also heard that there was a new company at Adepticon selling terrain pieces that stick together like Legos. Does anyone else know anything about this?" Well, Legos is maybe a strong term. There was a company there called Architects of Destruction. It was AOD. On Architects of Destruction, it wasn't so much that it was like it was so their big piece, the big thing they were working on, that they were going to be selling. I think they're doing a Kickstarter for it. Is like dungeon tiles. Okay, so for years there was this company called Dwarven Forge that made these resin dungeon tiles that were all modular and they were also pre-painted and pretty expensive. But if you were doing more fantasy RPG type stuff, that kind of thing, you would use those types of dungeon tiles, and then you could build, hallways and corners and sewers and all kinds of junk like that. And more companies are doing it, and you're seeing a lot of people also making files so that you can 3D print your own. Which I did. I 3D printed a little dungeon corner last year at one point. If you go back, I don't remember which video it was, but there was one I talked about. I think it was the one I was talking about how you can buy shapes online for your 3D printer instead of having to make your own shapes. Anyway, so Architects of Destruction was making those files, and then they thought, well, why don't we just make like injection molded normal hard plastic kits that we can just sell to people and they can paint them themselves or whatever, and that kind of stuff. So they were at Adepticon showing those off. And as far as like Legos, they have like little clips in between so you can put the pieces together, but they don't like stick together like Legos where you stack them and build stuff with them. Not like that. If that's what you're talking about, I saw them at Gamma as well, the game manufacturers trade show thing, when I was in Reno, and real nice guys and good looking product. If you want to play like in a dungeons type setting, they've got some really cool stuff. But then they've also got a bunch of other like 3D printed available stuff that you can like buy the files and then you can 3D print like a bunch of pirate stuff and castles and all kinds of cool stuff. So you're starting to see more of that kind of thing happening. For years, Dwarven Forge was the only company really that made those modular kind of dungeon tiles, and now there's a bunch of companies that are jumping in, and instead of doing it in resin and having them be super kind of heavy, they're doing it in injection molded plastic, which takes more money up front to make the molds and all that stuff. Excuse me, but the overall like final thing is really 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 nice. So. Let's see here. Alicia says that Mephiston Red is thick. It's a thick paint, yeah. Red paints are also, like, white is a weird pigment, and so is red for some reason. My art teacher in middle school told us that it would always be that we were, like, working with tempera paints. Like, when you're a kid, they give you tempera paints, which are like a powder, and you have to add a little bit of water to it, mix it up, and you make a paint. And the red tempera paint was always the hardest to mix. Like, you would pour, water into powder or powder into water, and it just wouldn't. You'd be stirring it and there'd still be powder all over the top of the water. And you'd be like, what is wrong with this paint? And he's like, it's because it's red. Red is also one of the harder pigments for some reason to mess with. I'm not quite sure why. So let's see here. Ron Scott says, will there be a beginner section at the Oshkosh Con? Well, Tabletop Minions Expo is happening in Oshkosh, if that's what you're referring to. As far as beginners, everything pretty much at TMX. Hang on. Right there. Everything at the Tabletop Minions Expo pretty much is designed to be demos, and like it's not like Adepticon or a lot of other big conventions where there's a lot of tournaments and you're coming to play tournaments and things like that. TMX is all about, hey, people are here to teach you this game, and people are here to teach you that game, and that kind of stuff. Sometimes they're homebrew games that they're making up themselves. Sometimes they're games that aren't getting a lot of play, elsewhere, but this person really enjoys it and wants to teach you about it, so you can kind of learn about it. Sometimes they're old games that haven't been made in a long time. Last year at Tabletop Minions Expo, my good friend Peter ran a game called Silent Death, which was a spaceship combat game. That game hasn't been produced in at least a decade, I think, and it was just a tabletop kind of space combat sort of game, and people had a lot of fun with it. That particular scenario for that particular game is perfectly designed for convention play, because it's you can kind of join in at any time, fly around, shoot some guys, fly off, whatever. It's not like a big scenario and one side wins versus the other side. It's a little bit more gladiatorial, but spaceships. So that's kind of the way it works. It's fun. I should have put some sort of outline or something around the logo, or done it more in white. It's kind of like there you go, right there. See, look at that. Anyway, so yeah, Tabletop Minions Expo this is the second year. It's taking place in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the university, and it's small. Last year we had about 65 people show up. It's a 2-day convention, Saturday and Sunday. That's what the 9th and 10th are, and but it's a lot of fun. It's just a fun little kind of convention where people come and play and learn kind of new games. People get like I said, it's mostly all demos. I know that Rick Gerhardt, who just left, he and a bunch of the people in his gaming club, which are called the Southeastern Wisconsin Battle Badgers, they came and ran. If you look at the picture here, Rick is wearing the Brewers shirt right next to the TM logo up there. You kind of his head's sort of cut off, and that's Flames of War. They're big into Flames of War. Their battle group, their game club, and so that's Point to Hawk, I believe, the big Point to Hawk board that they made, and so it's just really cool. It's just a fun kind of like convention. It's small. Got a couple of vendors. Last year, Gaddis Games was there. Who else was there? Broken Contract, Breaker Press, I believe. They were there. This year, Wreckage is going to be there, according to our friend Matt. So, definitely, if you want to, like, as far as vendors are concerned, it's again small, but we only want vendors that are like designers or making their own game or making their own parts or their own accessories or their own models. We don't like, there's no, it's not retailers. You don't go there and there's like a, big retailer or a store or anything like that. Just selling like Games Workshop stuff or, Fantasy Flight stuff or Privateer Press stuff. Like, if Privateer Press wanted to come and sell stuff, they could, but we're not really doing retailers. We're having the companies that actually make these things, and we're generally looking at the more indie small groups for that stuff. So anyway, yeah, it's coming up on the 9th and 10th of June, and I can make the website up here if I do this. So I really needed a haircut. I really should have had a haircut when I apologize for last year not having a haircut during TMX. I ran out of time or something. Anyway, this was me trying to do the Every Other Sunday show on Sunday morning because the internet there was great, but my laptop did not want to cooperate, which is why if you go back and look at that episode, it was only like an hour long, and it was all kinds of, it stuttered a lot. It was no fun. So anyway, so information is here on this website, tabletopminions.org/TMX. You can find information. So if you want to run a game, you can sign up on the website, and I'll put that information on here. I've got a couple actually to add right now to the schedule, and this is the Game Master sign up. You can put in the event title, game system, blah blah blah, all the information. It makes a little email that gets sent to me. There is housing because it's a university, and it's the convention center has dorm style rooms upstairs, so they're quite inexpensive. Last I looked, they are, I think, $40 per night, and there's 2 twin beds in each room. So if you come with somebody, you can split it. It's super cheap. Rooms include 2 twin beds, a dresser, 2 closets, microwave, refrigerator, air conditioning, and towel sets, and run just $40 per night. And there's a phone number you can call for reservations. We'll be adding vendors in there. There's maps and location. There's all this different stuff for the TMX coming up this year, 2018, June 9th and 10th. Button there. So yeah, if you're interested, I have to bring the chat back. It's under like 16 different windows. All right. So if you're interested in coming, we'd be glad to see you there. And you can take a look at the website and find it, tabletopminions.org/TMX. Or if you just go to tabletopminions.org, there's a menu across the top that has a button that says TMX, and you can click on that. So there's that too. Definitely looking forward to it. I'll be talking more about it probably as I'm getting closer. I'll do a video about it and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm doing an Every Other Sunday show from the convention. Like I said, being at the university, the internet is super powerful. There's tons of it. It's great. But my laptop was being a jerk last year, so I've got to try to figure out a different situation there. Or I don't remember if it actually falls on... Let me look at my calendar on my phone. Yeah, it does. So I'll figure something out, or reschedule, or we'll figure something. Not the convention, but I'll reschedule the live show potentially if I can't make it work. But I will mess with that and try to do it. So I'll try to do a live stream from TMX this year again. But I might have to. I mean, I don't want to bring my computer, but I will bring my computer if I have to. The laptop is powerful. Like, it's a Core i7, it's got 16 gig of RAM, but for some reason when I plugged in that this particular webcam, it was just super not happy about it, and like, it stuttered a lot and it just stunk. So I'm trying to figure that one out. Haircuts are overrated. Just wear a beanie. Yeah, I mean, I can, but in June you don't necessarily want to. At this time of year, it's fine. Winter, fine. But in June, my head would get real sweaty, so I don't like that. VJ Morph says, LOL, I remember that live show. Yeah, that didn't work out as well as I would have liked. So we'll see what we can do. Maybe make it better this year. What else have we got? Josh McCarthy says, make sure to bring shower shoes. It is like a dorm, like upstairs. So it's not like you don't have your own bathroom and your own, so just if you've been to college and you lived in the dorms, you kind of know the drill. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. Mr. Mendeleev says, I really wish to come to your convention to present my own game in TMX when it's fully designed, but it's kind of far for a Belgian guy. Maybe TMX 2020. Well, that's fine, you know. I mean, I'm hoping you're not planning on walking, because I mean, yeah, that's a long walk, and there's like oceans in the way. But if it's just that you're, you know, waiting to either A, save up money or finish the game or both, that's fine. Yeah, 2020. I hope to keep doing it every year, so that's hopefully it'll be here for you. Mark says, I love small conventions for networking with model makers and wargamers. I went to a small modeling one tomorrow. I went to a small modeling game. You went to one tomorrow? Okay. And I was charmed by bolt action and how passionate for World War II those guys demoing the game. The guys last year that were doing the Battle Badgers, the guys that were doing a lot of Flames of War, they were also running Battlefront's game that's just called Tanks with an exclamation point at the end, which is kind of like X-Wing but with tanks. It's the same kind of like, you know, you've got the little cardboard rulers and the movement, and it's very skirmishy and kind of arcadey. Those guys are super serious about World War II stuff, and they know their stuff, and they know Flames of War, and they're, you know, yeah, it's they're good guys, and they're running a lot of stuff. But there was a lot of people there last year that were running good stuff. We had somebody running Dark Age, and they brought like a custom board, like a three-dimensional cool custom board. Last year you could play Shattered Crown, which is the game from Gaddis Gaming. They were running, I think, the beta at that time, or maybe it was still alpha. But they were running demos of that in front of their booth the whole time. Broken Contract, which was a kind of a post-apocalyptic, sort of a little bit more board gamey. Or maybe it's almost like a gateway game. You know what I mean? It's not like a full-blown like war game. It's played on a smaller board and stuff and everything, but it's neat little models. And again, post-apocalyptic. I know that the Noob Painter came up from Texas and ran This Is Not a Test, I believe, and maybe something else. I forget what else. But there was a lot of, and there was a guy who ran a big Star Wars Lego battle, had big AT-ATs and stuff like that. Yeah, it turned out well. I would tell you to go to the website and look at the pictures, but they didn't. There's a strip of pictures that was supposed to be bigger, and stupid WordPress. I'm not a big fan, in case anyone's wondering. So yeah, that's the thing. Clicking to get my windows back together. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it again this year. Again, it's small. Don't think, oh, this is going to be a big commitment. Like last year, seriously, it was 65 people. This year, potentially more, but you know. Last year, I really couldn't start advertising it or talking about it until almost a month before because there were issues. There was a confusion about whether or not we were actually doing it with the venue. This year, that has been addressed, so I've been talking about it a little bit more, and this is kind of more now post-Adepticon official ramping up. So you'll probably hear me talk about it more, but that's where that's at. Useful G. Adam, what happened to the Elgato? Could that work? I haven't tested the Elgato yet. Still, I've been with Adepticon and all that stuff and everything. I keep meaning to. Maybe I'll try to test it this week. I'll give it a try and see if it works on the laptop. I don't know if it's just a bus issue with the laptop, like there's just not enough bandwidth. I don't know. Like I said, honestly, I think part of the deal with that laptop, it's a good laptop. It's a Lenovo. It's not that old. It's powerful. It's got plenty of RAM. I honestly think it's because it's got a 4K screen, and I'm probably wrong, but it's just like that 4K screen on that thing has given me more trouble than I would like to have had. There's plenty of software that like, and it's bad programming on their part, but like they're using more of an absolute screen size, and it's not scaling properly. So buttons will be really super tiny because they're like absolute pixels, but it's a yeah. Anyway. So I would tell you maybe, I don't know. I don't personally seem to like Lenovo laptops, but your mileage may vary. Kilty O'Neill says maybe a beanie with liquid cooling. Ooh. I'll have to talk to my wife about that because she is my general beanie manufacturer of choice. But I don't know if she can do liquid cooling. I'll have to, maybe like a fan or just a propeller. I mean, I guess there's that. Yeah. I was the guy who asked you if spray painting over already painted models was a good idea. Anyways, I painted them, and a side effect gave them natural highlights. Yeah, I did a video about that years ago called, Rattle Can Tricks or something like that. I can't remember the exact title. I can picture the thumbnail, but I can't remember the exact title. But in that, what I generally like to do if you're using rattle cans is use like a dark color for the primer and then highlight over it like dust from above with a lighter color, and then you get automatic kind of like built-in highlights and base coating, which is awesome. So yeah. Ron Scott says, do you have to sign up to play certain games ahead of time at TMX? No. It's pretty much show up and stand around, and it's low key. It's pretty low key. Now, if you want to run games, it's best if you post that ahead of time so that I can put them on the website, and then people will be able to see what's coming and things like that. But if you want to play in a game, yeah, you don't need to generally sign up ahead of time because, again, it's not tournaments. It's not super official. There's like a start time. We'll say how long the event is. We'll give a description of the event, and people walk up and kind of stand around. And, you know, if generally, like, if there was like 8 people who wanted to play a 4-player game, then the GM would generally try to figure out a way to kind of make that happen, or say, okay, well, these 4 people will play first, and then these other 4 people will watch and learn, and then we'll alternate or something like that. That's a problem that we haven't run into yet, you know, as far as too many people, luckily, I guess. So, yeah. Hey, Scott Rowe says the AT-ATs will be returning. Yes, Scott Rowe is... he ran the Lego Star Wars. It was like kind of a jungle-y theme. It was kind of cool. It was nice looking. They had good attendance, a lot of people playing. Gaddis Gaming says, very friendly people running games at TMX. Yes, I would also agree. What else have we got here? Jasmine says, what's the bathroom situation like for females at the TMX dorm? There is bathrooms for both. On each floor, there's a men's bathroom and a women's bathroom. So, yeah, that's fine. Because it's not like it's a co-ed, you know. It's not a dorm anymore specifically, but it is designed for... It used to be a dorm. It used to be, I believe, an overflow dorm. When university attendance would rise up a lot, then there was this extra dorm. I think for a while it might have been a international students dorm, but there's certain floors they have set aside just for convention goers or, you know, conference goers or whatever. So yeah, there's men's and women's, and there's also elevators. I had somebody email me ask because he had a stairs issue, and so he's like, is there an elevator to the basement, because it's in the basement of this place, you know, because our people, we play in basements. That's the way it works, at least, well, if you have a basement. Some parts of the world don't do basements because of the ground, I guess, but around here it's basements. I'm going to be going into the basement a little bit later in the day working on my Storm Fiends for Age of Sigmar. That all being said, there's basements, there's bathrooms for both sexes, there's a bunch of food, you know, restaurants and things like that, because it's a college. You know, there's places around there. There's bars, plenty of parking, free parking, by the way. Yeah, so it works out pretty well. Alicia says, I use MSI laptop myself, and has really been great for my work. Yeah, I've been thinking about I just bought this laptop, though, and otherwise it basically works fine. I don't know. I got to mess with it a little bit more. Useful G says, 4K screen Dell laptop, and I get that UI stuff all the time. Yeah, it's just lazy programming is what it is, when you're just like, well, you know, like, no one's ever going to make a screen res for a laptop bigger than you know, 1920 by 1200 or whatever, and then you're like, hold my beer, evidently. A lot of the manufacturers are saying now, and so because of that, older programs are not understanding what to do with a bigger display. I mean, it's not physically larger, it's just higher resolution. Anyway, dorky tech stuff. Iron Fang asks, Adam, will you be adding more features to Game 4, like the ability for clubs to schedule events? Clubs can currently schedule events, so that's not a problem. We added clubs and group support, like a month ago almost. We will be adding by sometime end of this month, so end of April, early May, we will be adding a new feature, which will be the ability for groups and clubs to be able to post events that aren't at game stores. We've gotten a bunch of feedback from people, which we understood, but we've been getting the feedback now from groups and clubs that are like, we don't play in a store because there's maybe no stores near us or whatever, or we play in a church basement, or we play at a restaurant, or we play at a library or a pub. Around here, I know there's at least one board game group that plays at a grocery store because the grocery store has a community room that they can rent for around $5 or something like that, and so that's where they get together and play board games. So right now, the Game 4 app really only has the ability to have events in stores because we want to keep it public so people are in public and it's safe and things like that. But we will be adding the ability for, at least at the very beginning, for groups and clubs to be able to put in a public place. Let's say it's a cafe that they play at. And then we will quickly go on to like eBay, or not eBay, we'll quickly go on to like Facebook or whatever and search for that cafe and make sure that it is a public place and not just somebody's house or basement. And then that will be saved in their locations so that when they're like, hey, we're having an event and it's our monthly get together and it's at this cafe, they'll be able to put that information in there. But it won't end up in the store listing because we don't want people going to a cafe looking to buy games when there's no games there, but that kind of thing. So that's a new feature that's coming soon. There's a couple other ones too. I know that we're going to be starting to work more in May on language localization. So looking to translate the app into other languages. Probably just looking at analytics and numbers, probably German, and I think probably Spanish are probably our first two, but Portuguese also because we're getting more and more people in Brazil. So yeah, we're looking into that. There's a bunch of stuff we have to do on our end to make it happen, and then there's the actual translation part, which is actually somewhat slightly easier as far as the technical aspects of it. But yeah, so that's where that's at. New stuff's coming all the time. It keeps growing. We're also working with International Tabletop Day, which is an event put on the 28th of April by Geek and Sundry, the website / YouTube channel, all that stuff. They have this International Tabletop Day where people get together and play games and have a good time. And we've got International Tabletop Day support in the app now. So if you decide to post an event on International Tabletop Day, like you're going to have an event, if you put it in there for the 28th, it will, right below the date in the event creation screen, it will then ask, hey, is this a International Tabletop Day event? And you can check the little box, yes. And then the listing gets a little bit extra flair, so people, as they're scrolling through the list of game events near them, will see this stand out a little bit more, and they'll have the logo for the International Tabletop thing, and they're like, oh, look at that. And then they will find out more information, and hopefully it'll help draw some more people out to play on International Tabletop Day, which is April 28th. So it's coming up. It's a Saturday, last Saturday of the month. JP Godrock has just said, Adam, are you doing anything for International Tabletop Day? Yes. As I mentioned, we put that into the app, and what I'm doing for International Tabletop Day is we're going to be playing Shadespire at our local shop and having a bunch of people get together. So it'll be me and the two other guys from work at the very least who play. You might have a couple other guys at work show up, and we'll teach them how to play because they haven't, like, everybody else at work plays some sort of other tabletop game, but the three of us, me and Matt and Jason, are the only ones right now playing Shadespire. So so maybe some of those guys will show up. But other people, we've been working with the local shop as well. There's other people that are going to be playing at the local shop because there's a growing Shadespire group happening at Flying Phoenix, which is the local shop here in Oshkosh. So anyway, yeah, that's my plan for the International Tabletop Day. Dominic Parker says, if you have you any interest in doing any coverage for Gaslands? I'm dragging my board game group into it to try to spark some more miniature hobby interest. I do want to take a closer look at it. I have a copy of it. I was a big fan of Car Wars back in the day, so I'm definitely wanting to take a closer look at it because it does sound like a lot of fun, and it'd be sort of fun just to kind of like kit bash together some cars, like some Matchbox style cars and things like that. But yeah, definitely, that's something I'm looking forward to as well because a lot of people are really starting to enjoy it as well. I could see also 3D printing lots of little fun little bits and pieces of terrain and like stuff like that to race around. I think that'd be a lot of fun too. Anton Carter says, I just started my first Age of Sigmar army, Caradon Overlords. They look awesome and can't wait to start playing. They are really cool models. I do like the flying dwarves, the kind of steampunk flying dwarves with the flying boats. They're really cool. Congrats on getting involved and starting to go. I think they're a fun army from what I understand. So that's yeah. I think they just look amazing. So what else have we got? What's the user count up to for Game 4 and verified store count? I don't off the top of my head know verified store count. But I do know right now users were somewhere around 85 or 8,600 users worldwide, and it's been growing. It's not it's been obviously it's been growing, but it's been pretty steady for the most part. There was this big spike right around when I made the video back in March, and then also we were at or well, was it late? It was late February. Late February or March, when we were at the Gamma trade show in Reno. There was this big spike because I did a video about it and all that kind of stuff and talked about it. If you haven't gotten to take a look at Game 4 and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to try to see if I can make this work. Oh, good. My keyboard is working. I am game4.com. And there you go. That didn't turn into a link for reasons. I think it's because I didn't put the HTTP in front of it. Anyway, it's iamgamefor.com. iamgamefor.com. And it is an app for iOS and Android that allows you to find other people in your area who are also Game 4 users who are tabletop gamers. And it's not just wargaming, it's also board gaming and collectible card games and RPGs and all that kind of stuff. So it's been growing, but it's been working out well. They're going to write about us at Geek and Sundry. That's going to bring a bunch of people in, but we're also trying to get into there. I was just interviewed on the Independent Characters podcast, which is pretty much the biggest 40K podcast out there. That one just went live on a couple days ago, actually. So yeah, Carl's awesome, and so that was cool. I've got a couple other interviews coming up soon, but I'm definitely always looking for more. If you know somebody who runs a role-playing game, board game, collectible card game, blog, YouTube channel, podcast, whatever, let them know about the app and have them reach out to me. I would love to talk to them about it because I want more people to use the app because I think it's a good thing. We've been getting really good feedback from the app. A lot of people talking about how they really like the features and they like the way it works. The one complaint, and this makes sense, is that they're like, well, there's not a lot of people on it yet. Well, it's not been quite 4 months since we launched, so we need to keep getting more people in, and that's just going to take some time. But while that's happening, we're not just sitting around waiting for people to show up. We're adding more features. We're adding more modifications and things like that. So anyway, that's where we're at. Torch says, my friendly local game store is waiting for your call to get set up on the app. Cool, Torch. Let me know. I don't know. It might be because it's a weekend thing, but we'll double check. If you shoot me an email at Adam, ADAM, at iamgamefor.com and just let me know. I'll double check to make sure all the information came through or whatever. But yeah, we're always looking for more stores as well to get on board. The store finder list has got 6,000 stores in it currently, or more than 6,000. But stores can get verified for free, so they can put in their own events and then they'll show up in the listing. And I've talked about it before. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, you go to the website. There's a lot of information there. So yeah, definitely. Do you have any wet palettes beside the one that you make yourself? I've looked at. There's a company called Masterson, I think, that makes wet palettes that are not really designed for miniature painters. I think they're designed more for. Maybe they're designed for watercolor painters, or they're designed for maybe acrylic painters, but I'm not sure. But there's a company that makes wet palettes, and I want to say it's called Masterson or something like that. And you can usually get those at better, art stores, art supply stores, if you don't want to make your own. I just usually use the one that I make, which has got that like a Tupperware type. It's actually Glad, like sandwich container, and stuff like that. But there are people who definitely use, like store-bought ones, and that's fine. I think I think Privateer Press makes one. And that's like really small, but I could be wrong. It's like a travel one almost, I think, really. The name of the app is called Gamefor, Gamefor. If you search in the app stores for either Android or iOS, you will find it. Sometimes you want to add the word tabletop or event to Gamefor because then it helps, because there's a lot of stuff out there. But we've been doing better though. So as far as like getting higher, when you first start out and you first load your app, it's harder to find it in the search, and then as more people download it, more people use it, then it starts kind of climbing up, almost like on Google. When you first launch a website, it doesn't immediately get on Google. It takes some time to kind of get better. Wally the Bus says, "Hey Adam, love the Game4 app. Just wondering how you guys make any money from it with no ads and free to use." Well, there will be ads coming eventually, and we'll be adding that in eventually. That's one of the features coming out soon. Also, there will be a subscription model. All the features that are in the app right now will always be free. But if you want to become a subscriber, like once we launch the ads, you can subscribe to make the ads go away, mostly, except for we're going to have special partner ads, which are going to be actually like game companies. So it's not going to be like, oh, here, you should download Candy Crush and the normal kind of little banner ads at the bottom. That will go away if you become a subscriber. But the other ads will be like game companies and companies that make stuff for games, like maybe dice or those little trays that you keep your whatever, battle foam, that kind of stuff. Companies that make whatever. So those will be kind of interspersed in between the events. There's a bunch of other. We've got a monetization scheme. We've been thinking about that for a long time, and we've got that nailed down. But to start, basically everything that we wanted to put in, it was more important to get it out there and get people using it than it was to get it out there, get people using it, and having the monetization scheme right from the get-go. It's kind of like a YouTube channel, you know what I mean? Like if you start a YouTube channel or a blog or anything like that, and you immediately are like, okay, cool, and here's my Patreon, you're like, but you haven't really produced much yet. I think it takes some time. You got to build up a group and show them what you can do. Show me what you got, and then maybe start thinking about monetization. So yeah. Let me see here. What else have we got? Wally the Bus says, it would be worth seeing if there are some people in European countries who would promote it at conventions and the like. Yeah, I mean, we're thinking about different ways to do almost like a street team and try to kind of get those, like, basically incentivize getting people in, who want to talk to their local stores and things like that. We're working on some concepts, maybe some badges, and maybe the badges have some sort of extra bonus that helps you out as a user and things like that. So we're looking at those types of things. But yeah, we just actually had a meeting about that earlier this week, kind of working beyond where we're already working beyond, to kind of see what comes next after what we already know comes next, that kind of thing, working more into the future and trying to figure out those things and brainstorm. So those things are always it's good to be able to do that stuff and to think ahead, so you're not caught flat-footed, frankly. Headhunter says, I use a Masterson's, see, I got that right, a Masterson's palette until my Redgrass Games Kickstarter palette ships next month. I heard about that palette a bunch. It was something that was like, it's supposed to be like a Forever palette, or I don't know, it's something that's a French company, I think, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, I did not do the Kickstarter, but I did see that they were trying to make this kind of fancy, it was like magnetic as well, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So it's cool. I'm glad to see that people are, doing that kind of thing and thinking about that kind of stuff, because it was very, very designed for miniatures painters and not just like, oh, this is for people who paint, acrylic on canvas or whatever, you know what I mean? Eric says, thanks for the Gaslands info, guys. I'll check it out more after the stream. Yeah, Gaslands is a very cool game, and I think that they are maybe out. Well, no, I mean, I think the next printing is coming out very soon or is already out. But the original printing, when they first cranked it out, just like immediately sold. And Osprey has been very good lately about working with a bunch of different companies and basically putting out a lot of different things to see what works and what doesn't. And I'm really impressed with Osprey lately, because they're really, between like Frostgrave and a lot of the other projects. I mean, Frostgrave is really big for them, and it's really stepped them into more areas now of wargaming and that kind of stuff, and it's really cool to see them. Because within wargaming, they were always around, but they were always just the company that made the books that told you what color pants to paint your Napoleonic dudes if they were from this particular year, and that stuff. It was more source material and that kind of stuff. But when they decided to start getting into gaming and they did Frostgrave, it just, yeah, it's really worked out. But they've been producing tons and tons of stuff, and it's been really neat to see. Let's see here. Jeffrey David says, on the looking for player screen, can you sort by distance? Currently, no. You can filter by distance, so you can only see people who are within a certain distance from you, but it does not sort by the closest to the furthest away. It sorts currently by, like, the most recent listings, and then it's kind of reverse chronological from there. But if you're like, I only want to see people within 25 miles, you can filter down the bottom and say, I just show me all of them that are within 25 miles. And you could look at all those and go, okay, well, I don't necessarily see anything there. Then you can say, well, what about 50 miles? And then kind of go from there and work on it that way. At some point, we're thinking about making it so that you could also filter by how close they are to you or something like that. That's maybe a bit of a future piece. The Noob Painter says, Gaslands keeps running out of print copies. However, you can get the PDFs all the time. Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's probably true. I bet you Osprey is also selling the PDFs. If you're into that kind of thing, and I like PDFs generally, some people don't like, they'll only like the physical copy, and that's fine. But I'm fine with PDFs. I've got a tablet that works great for that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a good idea, too. Irrational Gaz says that the next print of Gaslands is in May. Evidently, a lot of people like Gaslands. I mean, I knew people were liking Gaslands a lot. I knew it was selling out, but evidently that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Let me see here. Joe says, "Oh my God, I'm loving the look of the Fallout minis. I saw the Fallout minis at Reno. Like they had the booth. They had a booth there for Modifius, I think, is the company that's doing those." And I remember looking at them, like they had a bunch of painted up ones and some terrain and stuff like that. And they were nice looking. JP Got Rocket says, back in the 90s, I always saw the Osprey source books, but could never understand why they didn't have any games. Nice that they have begun to catch up. Yeah, they really have. Between like stuff that I'm liking from them, right now, obviously Frostgrave, Dracula's America, I think is pretty awesome. Dragon Rampant looks cool. I don't know that it's like it's a little bit more. I need to take a look at it again because I don't know if it's necessarily for me, but I love the fact that they've got like a historical type type medieval game and also a fantasy type medieval game. So if you're like, well, yeah, no, this is cool, but I kind of want some wizards, then you can switch over to Dragon Rampant versus Lion Rampant is the other one, I think. So that's very cool. What else have we got here? Lord Clint says, finally, catch a live stream. What do you think of Zombicide? I'm thinking of getting into it. I think Zombicide is one of the. I think it's a very good gateway game. So, a gateway game, for those of you that haven't watched any of the videos where I've talked about gateway games, including the recent one, a gateway game is a game that kind of straddles the line between board game generally and war game. So, you're playing on a board and it can look a little board gamey, Zombicide, but you still have to keep track of like kind of range and a little bit of line of sight and things like that, and where you are really actually matters as opposed to just like, oh, I'm just going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, and then roll the dice and then go to jail or whatever. It's not Monopoly, you know what I mean? Like it means something where you are a little bit more. And the person, like the models that you're using are not just a representation of like, okay, I'm taking over France with this soldier miniature. Instead, you're like, this is the guy, and this is this person, and that's 3 zombies, and they're coming. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit more representational as far as unit strength. So there's all these little things that make it board gamey, but also make it starting to head a little bit towards more wargaming. And it's a good introduction for your board gaming friends to show them a little bit more about wargaming. That all being said, I know that there's a lot of different versions. I've been talking to people lately who I forget who I was talking to, but they were saying that they think that the Black Plague version, which is kind of the like medieval version, they think that's probably one of the better versions. The rules are a little bit tighter and make a little bit more sense than the originals. So it's up to you. If you're looking to get into Zombicide, I would suggest starting with Black Plague, but it's up to you if you want the aesthetic of like the, you know, zombies chasing you around the mall. That's kind of more the first version, but understand that the rules are a little bit not as tight, I guess, or not as good to some degree as the Black Flag one. One of Sam's first videos he's ever done on the channel, possibly the first video he ever did on this channel, was how to paint Zombicide zombies, and kind of do that. So you can take a look at that as well to find out more information. They can go pretty quickly. So definitely, yeah. Zombicide's a good game. You know, I mean, the other thing that's nice too is that it's also designed to be played with more players, and it's also mostly cooperative. I mean, technically you can sort of screw other players sometimes, but you probably ought not to. The general idea is that it's best if everybody wins. But it's everybody versus zombies as opposed to a lot of other games which are like it's me versus you, you know, or whatever. So not only is it a gateway game, but it's also a gateway game that can be taught to multiple people at the same time. You know, you can be like, I can teach 4 people how to play something that's kind of a war game, almost. You know what I mean? As opposed to just like I can teach one person. So that's kind of the benefit there too. David says Gaslands is cool, but I'd probably go a bit wild buying Matchbox cars. Well, yeah, I mean there is that kind of issue. You can always look for rummage sales. We call them rummage sales around here. Garage sales, yard sales, boot sales. I think car boot sales. Anyway, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. David says, agreed, Black Plague is the best of the lot. Well, there you go. Let's see, what else have we got? Man of Action says, Osprey games are awesome. Her Majesty's, Frostgrave, Gaslands, Mad Dogs with Guns, they have really done a great job on their gaming. Yeah, they've really been expanding it. It's been really cool to see. What else have we got? Man of Action says Zombicide is a great beer and pretzels game. That's kind of the definition almost of gateway games too. Yeah, definitely. I agree with your term gateway games. There are no gateway games, just more or less complicated games. Oh, I disagree with your term gateway games. There are no, well, except that, you know, like a board game and a war game are very different. You know, if you're going to play Scythe or Ticket to Ride, those are very different than, say, Age of Sigmar. So a game that is kind of board game but kind of war game, that's the term that I use for a gateway game. Your mileage may vary, but that's kind of where I put it. So Jeffrey also says Black Plague is best to start with, play every Friday at work, and has been a gateway for those I pulled into our work group. See, there you go, gateway game. Boom. Let me see here. Dominic says the real danger of Gaslands is it turns every grocery store trip into visiting a very stripped down hobby store. The impulse pangs can be really strong. Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, like, because that's one place that, like, when I was a kid and you went to the grocery store, you're you know, on a really good day, you came back with like a Matchbox car or a Hot Wheels car or something like that, or maybe some Army Men, you know, maybe. But on a bad day, you just, you know, came back with food or whatever, which is also good. Don't get me wrong, but as a kid, you're like, but I really wanted a toy. And so there's always that weird little kind of toy section at your kind of supermarkets, and that's also not a bad place to kind of find weird little cars. I wonder if there's like the dollar store, if they sell like Matchbox cars. I'm assuming they must, and they're probably not like name brand Matchbox or name brand Hot Wheels, so they might be like sort of weird, and then that is easier maybe to make them, you know what I mean, yeah, I'll have to look. I should go to the dollar store and check and see if I'm assuming they sell little toy cars there, you know, of that size. I mean, I know that they would sell regular toy cars there, but they might be at a completely different scale. So you kind of want, from what I can understand, you want to stick in that sort of Matchbox / Hot Wheels style size for that. Definitely. Alicia says, suddenly somehow everything turns into a potential sculpting tool. Yeah, that's also true. I took a sculpting class not this last year, but the year before at Adepticon, and I was astounded by all the crazy kind of pieces that that guy would use for sculpting tools, and that was really cool. Like he used a special type of needle that you use in tattooing, and then he kind of modified it, and it was perfect for making fur in green stuff, and it worked out really well. I keep meaning to get one, and I haven't. I should just order one on eBay. Anyway, it is 11 a.m. by my clock here in my time zone. So I want to thank everybody who came to watch the show and is going to be able to, I want to thank people who watch it later as well. Absolutely. So if you are, again, are interested and you would like to not be naked, there are shirts that you can buy. T-shirts for Tabletop Minions, as requested, are now available. If you go to bit.ly/merchbunker, you'll be able to find the different T-shirts that are available, and you can get them both in the United States and also EU, European Union. If you're outside the United States, I would order the European Union ones. It will save you money on shipping, even if you're in Canada. So there's that, and then also Tabletop Minions Expo. There's the logo. You can kind of see it. Tabletop Minions Expo is coming up June 9th and 10th this year in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And if you think you can make it, it'd be great. And if you want to run some games there, go to tabletopminions.org/TMX, and you can post your events, and I'll put them on the website, and it'll be great. And we'll all have a fun time. And that's what I got. So anyway, again, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and hopefully the snow will be gone by then. Man, if it hasn't, I don't know. We'll be because 2 weeks. That'll be end of April. We better not have too much snow on the ground end of April, but it's Wisconsin. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, I hope that all of you have a good time over the next couple of weeks. Work on some hobby stuff, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.